The Tennessee Titans have fired general manager Ran Carthon, proving once again that they are directionless and a clown franchise. We'll discuss on today's edition of Locked On Titans.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, today's emergency edition of the Locked On Titans podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. The Tennessee Titans have fired general manager Ran Carthon, which I think is an insane move, continuing the show that the Tennessee Titans have no direction as a franchise. We're going to go over the move, my initial reactions to that move. Also, we'll talk about why the statements that the Tennessee Titans put out with this decision make everything even more confusing. But at the end of the show, to cap things off, I will try to be a little bit positive. With that being said, though, I do want to thank you for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day. Shout out to my everydayers out there. Tuning in Monday through Friday. If you aren't an everydayer, you need to be one. And this is exactly why, because I'm going to have year-round free Tennessee Titans content for you every single week. But with that being said, again, we get the news that the Tennessee Titans will be firing Ran Carthon, something that we talked about on yesterday's episode because it had been in the news, it had been in the reports over the weekend that something like this could happen. And let me just say, what a terrible, terrible decision from the Tennessee Titans. What a terrible, terrible decision for the Tennessee Titans to fire Ran Carthon. And I literally talked about it on yesterday's episode. If you are going to fire Ran Carthon, fire everyone. If you're going to fire Ran Carthon because he picked a bad coach, how can you fire Carthon and keep the bad coach? That doesn't make any sense. I talked about Chad Brinker, and it looks like I was right about Chad Brinker. This is why you guys listen to the show. I told you on yesterday's show that I thought Chad Brinker would be the guy who wins if Ran Carthon is fired. It's not going to be the Titans hiring somebody from outside. It's going to be them just giving more power to Chad Brinker, which is 100% what happened. But we'll talk about the confusing structure that the Titans are going with here in a second. But again, if you're going to fire Ran Carthon, you should have fired everyone. How can you fire Ran Carthon and keep Brian Callahan around? It just makes absolutely zero sense because it's once again the Tennessee Titans forcing arranged marriages on their biggest players. All right, you had Mike Vrabel. You forced Ran Carthon on him instead of firing Vrabel and John Robinson at the same time. Then you fire Mike Vrabel because you picked Ran Carthon. You literally fired Mike Vrabel last year because you wanted to roll with Ran Carthon. You chose Ran Carthon to be the guy that you put your trust in. And then a year later, fire Ran Carthon? It makes zero sense whatsoever. How could you pick Ran Carthon over Mike Vrabel last year? And then literally a year later, after letting Ran Carthon pick a coach and touting Ran Carthon up as the leader of your organization and the face of your franchise and all that, and then decide that he wasn't the right guy. In 1 year, you went from firing the second best coach in the history of this franchise because you believed in the GM to not believing in the GM anymore. In 1 year. That's all it took. It's absurd. And at the end of the day, we have to sit back and say, Mike Vrabel was right. Mike Vrabel was right to press the buttons. Mike Vrabel was right. And if you remember, reports came out, Mike Vrabel did not think that Ran Carthon was ready to be a general manager in the NFL. He said that the Titans needed to hire somebody above Ran Carthon, and then that's what the Titans ended up doing anyways. Because you have Chad Brinker, who all the reports are coming out now, Chad Brinker was always over Ran Carthon. How in the world are you going to fire Ran Carthon 1 year, 1 calendar year, after firing Mike Vrabel to go with Ran Carthon? Again, we could talk about firing Ran Carthon, firing the coaches, doing the thing, but the big issue is that the Titans are a completely directionless clown franchise that is the embarrassment of the NFL right now. The entire NFL for the last year straight has been laughing at the Tennessee Titans. They laughed at the Titans when they fired Mike Vrabel, and they laugh at the Titans now. And throughout the gap between the two events, people laughed at the Titans as they went 3-14. It's just despicable. This is a terribly run franchise, a terribly run organization. And we can talk about coaches and GMs and players and getting a quarterback and it just seems so minuscule to talk about the right tackle job when you have a franchise run this terribly. This is the ultimate death sentence for any fan. It's bad ownership. That kills a franchise. It's just insane that they fired Vrabel. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't have fired Vrabel, but to fire Vrabel and a year later fire the guy who you picked over Mike Vrabel, it makes zero sense whatsoever. It is just rudderless, directionless, terrible. And I'll tell you, the things that we heard from the Titans, the statements that they released, they make it even worse. The statements that they released here make it even worse because it makes zero sense what the Titans are doing right now. It makes zero sense whatsoever. Just a terrible, terrible, terrible franchise run terribly as well. Now, for what happens next? Chad Brinker is going to be the guy running the football organization. And what it sounds like is that was already the case anyways. But, I don't know how you can have any faith whatsoever no matter what the Titans do going forward. No matter what decisions the Titans make going forward, it is hard to have any faith in them whatsoever based on what we've seen over the last 2 years with this franchise. They have no idea what they're doing. They have no idea how to set things up. They have no idea who's in charge. I mean, it truly makes zero sense what the Tennessee Titans are doing right now. And again, how can you fire Ran Carthon? Think about what Ran Carthon has done. Now, has it been perfect? No, it absolutely has not been perfect whatsoever. But he drafted Peter Skoronski. He drafted J.C. Latham, who both look like good players on the offensive line. Will Levis didn't work, but he drafted Tavondre Sweat. He brought in Tony Pollard. He brought in Calvin Ridley. He brought in Jarvis Brownlee Jr. in the draft. L'Jarius Sneed and Lloyd Cushenberry both got hurt. I mean, you could say those are bad moves, but they both got hurt. What Ran Carthon has done as a general manager, the moves that he's actually made, they aren't fireable. They aren't great, but they aren't fireable. The worst part of this football team was the coaching this year. How in the world can you, I still can't understand, just like yesterday, how can you fire Ran Carthon and keep Brian Callahan around? And now the next general manager that you hire is going to be a guy with Brian Callahan at coach when he didn't hire that coach in the first place. So it's another arranged marriage. I mean, it's just a cycle of garbage. There's no other way around it. It's a cycle of garbage for the Tennessee Titans, and Titans fans should be 100% outraged based on Ran Carthon getting fired, not only because of Ran Carthon getting fired, but what it means about the collective dysfunction of this organization. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets. Win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays. Of course, they have over-under, spreads, money lines, player props, and so much more. Make sure that you visit the website. Obviously, playoff time, there are going to be some good lines to take advantage of. Visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Titans fans, let's continue today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast, an emergency edition, as Ran Carthon has just been fired as general manager. I talked about my initial reaction and why I think it's a terrible move on its own. It also shows incredible instability in the Titans organization. And not only that, but what comes next is very, very concerning. And I mean, let's just dive into it. I want to go over the statements that we got from the Tennessee Titans, which make things very, very, very strange. Chad Brinker said, quote, speaking of a change of the general manager specifically, Ran was hired into a very different job description than the one that exists today. Ran was hired for a general manager position that was very specific to the circumstances at the time. The forecasting was the general manager was able to partner very closely with the head coach, the existing head coach, and as the circumstances exist today, the general manager position is different. And so what Chad, who is leading the search, or this is from Burke Nahill, who is leading the search, will be looking for is a very different skill set for a very different job description. What? What does that even mean? The general manager job when Ran was hired was different than what the general manager job is going to be now? How does that make any sense? It's the general manager. And it says in here, the forecasting was the general manager would be able to partner very closely with the head coach, the existing head coach. Well, at the time, the existing head coach was Mike Vrabel. So you fire Mike Vrabel because he doesn't work well with Ran Carthon. And now you fire Ran Carthon because the general manager isn't supposed to collaborate with the head coach anymore. I thought collaboration was the buzzword that we were all sold last year. And then Chad Brinker talked about the general manager position of the Titans, and he said, quote, I think the GM position is unique to their respective organizations. This particular job, what we'll be looking for is someone who has spent their career as a scout. Ran Carthon has done that. Is a top-flight, top-level evaluator who has spent the majority of their career projecting college players to the NFL. That's exactly what Ran Carthon got notoriety for. They've had a major hand in setting the draft board in a preferably a consistent winning organization. So, a career as a scout, Ran Carthon, who is also in pro personnel, top-flight, top-level evaluator. Ran Carthon was touted on his ability to find talent at the end of the draft. That's what everybody was hype about. They've had a major hand in setting the draft board in preferably a consistent winning organization. Ran Carthon came from San Francisco and the Los Angeles Rams. Those are consistent winning organizations. Everything that Chad Brinker described right there is what Ran Carthon was. So how can you say that that's what we're looking for in a general manager and that job description is different than what you hired Ran Carthon to be? It doesn't make any sense. These quotes make everything more confusing. And here is where you want to get real crazy. Listen to what Chad Brinker said about the new GM that they want to hire. This is 100% a major shot at Ran Carthon. Quote, it is someone who wakes up every single day and the only thing they think about is building a roster, evaluating players, watching tape, working with the coaching staff, and not just someone who knows how to collect talent, but someone who really understands how to build a team and how all the pieces fit together that can work with not only in the short term winning today, but building for the future, the long term, and understanding how those pieces fit together. If you make a decision here, how it impacts a decision down the road, and really understands the full puzzle. So wait a minute. Chad Brinker said they want someone who wakes up every single day and only thinks about building a roster, evaluating players, watching tape, and working with the coaching staff, and not just someone who knows how to collect talent and someone who really understands how to build the team. So are you telling me that Ran Carthon did not wake up every single day and build the roster and evaluate players and watch tape and work with the coaching staff? That's what it sounds like to me. If you're saying, hey, this is what we want from the next general manager, you're saying that's what you did not get from the previous guy. That is shots fired, folks. That is taking a major shot at Ran Carthon. We want someone who wakes up every single day and only thinks about building the roster, evaluating players, watching tape, and working with the coaching staff. Chad Brinker is telling you they think Ran Carthon was lazy and unfocused. He's literally telling you. They put out a statement saying that Ran is lazy and unfocused, and they want somebody who wakes up every day thinking about building the roster. You're telling me that Ran Carthon did not wake up every day? And look, I'm going to bleed sports together here, but I'm a Los Angeles Lakers fan. This sounds exactly like what the Lakers said about their previous head coach, Darvin Ham. They were saying that Darvin Ham wasn't locked in. He wasn't focused. He wasn't devoted. He wasn't working hard enough. And the Titans come out and say the same thing about Ran Carthon. They're saying Ran Carthon didn't work hard enough. Ran Carthon wasn't focused. Ran Carthon didn't wake up every single day and only think about building the roster, evaluating players, watching tape, and working with the coaching staff. They're saying that Ran Carthon only knew how to collect talent but didn't know how to put a team together. They are literally blaming Ran Carthon and taking shots at him as a general manager. Crazy. So just to recap the three things that we just talked about. Let's recap the three things that we just talked about. The Titans said that the new general manager responsibilities are different than the responsibilities when Ran Carthon was hired, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And then they just said that Ran Carthon didn't wake up every morning focused on doing the job. So two things. There is only one thing. There's only one way. There's only one way that we can interpret all of this. Something was going on behind the scenes. Something doesn't add up. And here's something from Easton Freeze, who said, here's the dirty little not so secret about the Titans in 2024. Chad Brinker has been the one in charge all along. Ran had final say on personnel decisions, but Chad did just about everything else, was involved in the football side as well. So if Ran deserves to be fired because he wasn't actually doing much, so be it. Come out and say that. But the decisions he rubber stamped were far from fireable offenses. So there you go. So Ran Carthon was a patsy all along who the Titans were not giving real decisions to. Chad Brinker was really in charge the entire time, but yet they're going to say that Ran Carthon was lazy and unfocused and didn't take his job seriously and use him as the scapegoat fall guy? Again, whether this turns out to be the right move or the wrong move, more importantly and more upsettingly, is this proves once again that the Tennessee Titans are a directionless clown franchise that is stuck in poverty. And I don't know if they're going to make it out anytime soon. But these quotes, these comments that we got from Burke Nahill and from Chad Brinker, they are insane. They are insane. To say that the GM role has changed from when you hired Ran Carthon 2 years ago to firing him now, that the responsibilities are totally different. Someone explain that to me. How is that even possible? What else could you be doing as a general manager other than setting the roster? And here's the thing. Here's the final point I want to make here before I try to be optimistic to end the show. I'm going to try to be optimistic. But what good general manager would want to come to the Titans? You just fired 2 general managers in 2 years. You fired Mike Vrabel, who the rest of the league can't wait to hire right now. You have Chad Brinker over the general manager. Chad Brinker has full control of the roster. Chad Brinker has full control of football decisions. So why would any general manager candidate want to come in and be Chad Brinker's assistant in a franchise that has done what the Titans have done over the last 2 years with a terrible roster and no quarterback and a terrible head coach? And you don't even get to be the general manager. You're an assistant to Chad Brinker. What good general manager candidate would want to come into those circumstances when they don't even have full control of the roster? What good general manager candidate would want to do that? So there's no way that the Titans are going to hire a good person for their general manager role, because what good candidate would in their right mind want to take the Titans general manager job when you aren't even the general manager? Chad Brinker is. It just a clown organization, man. But I'm going to try. I'm going to try to put this in the spin zone and look at it optimistically. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. It's playoff time, and if you're like me, you want to make the most out of these final weeks of football action. That's where PrizePicks comes in. If you love football and you want a chance to win real money, PrizePicks is the place for you. It's the best way to turn your sports opinions into cash with daily fantasy player projections. With PrizePicks, you simply pick more or less on player stats like total passing yards, rushing touchdowns, for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your money. You can make your picks in less than 60 seconds. PrizePicks has got you covered, and with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in winnings, it's clear that people are loving PrizePicks. I've been playing for a while now. I'm having a blast. This week, you could look at Josh Allen over 230 passing yards, Saquon Barkley for more than one touchdown. It's so easy to use, and I love how fast the payouts are. You can get paid in as little as 15 minutes when your picks hit. Here's a special offer for Locked On Titans listeners. Download the app today. Use the code Locked On NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's PrizePicks. Run your game. Download the app today. Use the code Locked On NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, it's PrizePicks. Run your game. Today's episode is also brought to you by Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? Definitely happened to me. I've had subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was paying for, and Rocket Money made it easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spending. It helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. For me, the best feature was the subscription tracker. I used it to cancel services I wasn't using anymore, and I've already saved a ton. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked-on today. That's rocketmoney.com/locked-on, rocketmoney.com/locked-on. Titans fans, let's cap off today's emergency reaction edition to Ran Carthon being fired. Again, I think this is an insane decision by the Titans. If they're going to fire Ran Carthon, you need to clean house entirely, because now the general manager that you're going to hire, who's under Chad Brinker, which doesn't make any sense. Why would you need a general manager if Chad Brinker has 53-man roster control and has control of over all the football decisions? What's a general manager for? That's what a general manager does. Why would you hire a general manager when you already have Chad Brinker as president of football operations and you've given him the general manager responsibilities? It does not make any sense whatsoever. But, just the statements that we heard that I went over, the move in and of itself and what it means for the Titans as an organization, it's just despicable. It's terrible. It's deflating. It's depressing. But I'm going to try to spin this positively. Just for a minute. Like I said, if you look at Ran Carthon's track record, if you look at what Ran Carthon has done as the general manager for the Tennessee Titans, it's not great. No, it's not great. Absolutely not great. But it's also not worthy of being fired. Remember, I'll go through it again. Skoronski, Latham, Sweat, Jarvis Brownlee Jr., good picks. Calvin Ridley, Tony Pollard, Sebastian Joseph Day, brought them in. Good pickups. L'Jarius Sneed got hurt. Lloyd Cushenberry was looking good and then got hurt. I'm not saying that Ran Carthon has done a great job as general manager, but he hasn't done enough to be fired. So the only thing that I can think of, again, is something was, the Ernest Jones trade was good as well. Great flip. The only thing I can think of is something was going on behind the scenes. There's something here that we don't know. It can't be measured or it can't be seen in signings, draft picks, trades, hirings. Something is going on. Something has gone on behind the scenes that has nothing to do with things that we know about. We can look at, again, who he traded for, who he signed, who he drafted, who he hired. We can look at all those things. But what we don't see is, we don't see the behind the scenes. How does he interact with his coworkers? How does he interact when there are disagreements on what to do? You know, there's got to be something. There's got to be something behind the scenes here that we can't see, that if we aren't in the building, we can't know about. And when you get the comments that we've gotten here from the Titans about how they want somebody who's focused, who wakes up every day, focused on the roster, trying to make things better, blah, blah, blah. When you hear that and you look at Ran Carthon's track record, it's like, okay, something's going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. And yeah, I'm seeing it, guys. Jarvis Brownlee Jr. is tweeting out, this isn't good. Deion Sanders tweeted out, wow, I don't think Shedeur Sanders is coming to Tennessee now. Deion Sanders cannot be happy about Ran Carthon being fired. So if there's something going on behind the scenes that we couldn't know about, then maybe this is a good thing. Then maybe it's something bad and we don't know about it. Yeah. Drayden says Ran Carthon always slept in and was late to meetings. Like, maybe it's something like that. Maybe he was a poor worker. I don't know. I'm trying to make sense of this crazy thing. Yeah, Deion Sanders came out and said he was shocked and disappointed. There is no way in the world that the Titans are getting Shedeur Sanders now. It's not happening. So the only thing that I can think of is that there was something behind the scenes going on in a workplace environment situation that was not going well. Let me also say this. I will say this. If Mike Vrabel said Ran Carthon was not ready to be an NFL general manager. When Amy Adams Strunk fired Mike Vrabel and restructured the organization, she made Chad Brinker an equal to Ran Carthon. So what that tells me is that Mike Vrabel didn't believe in Ran Carthon, and Amy Adams Strunk really didn't either. Because immediately after she fired Mike Vrabel, she made Chad Brinker an equal to Ran Carthon. And as I said on yesterday's show, when I told you guys that I thought Chad Brinker would be promoted and be given more responsibility if Ran Carthon was fired, I literally told you this on yesterday's show that this would happen. Then it's probably logical that while Ran Carthon was making those moves, she was going to Chad Brinker and saying, Chad, was this a good move? Chad, what did you think of this? This only happened because Chad Brinker told Amy Adams Strunk that Ran Carthon did something wrong. Like, period. That is my belief. So, I don't think this is right. I don't think it's true, but let's just be optimistic for a second. If Ran Carthon was not doing a good job, if Ran Carthon is not ready to be a general manager, yeah, and we're seeing it. Rapid Reaction says Kaharski is reporting, report suggests that Ran Carthon wasn't a hard worker. If that's true, if Ran Carthon wasn't a hard worker and Ran Carthon wasn't doing a good job behind the scenes, then why would you want that guy to make the first overall pick for you? This is going to be a transformative offseason for the Titans, for good or for bad. This offseason is either going to get the Titans back on the right track or it's going to send them with a jetpack on the wrong track. And if you don't believe Ran Carthon's a hard worker, and if you don't believe that Ran Carthon is right for the job, then you probably shouldn't let him make the first overall pick. You probably shouldn't let him lead this offseason. So again, I don't believe this was the right move. I don't believe that the Titans are on the right track. I don't believe that the Tennessee Titans are ever going to be a well-run organization while Amy Adams-Strunk is running the team. It just seems like that is not going to happen. But if they're all right about Ran Carthon, then this is probably a blessing in disguise for the Titans. Obviously, I don't believe that, but I'm just trying to find an optimistic way to look at this, guys, because it just does not make any sense to me. A lot of people are saying Brinker backstabbed Ran Carthon, and you know what? Might be true. Might be true. But with that being said, tomorrow we'll probably look at some potential GM candidates. Again, why would any good general manager candidate want to come over here and truly be an assistant general manager to Chad Brinker? Doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But with that being said, again, I'll be back with you guys tomorrow. We're going to talk about general manager candidates. I'm sure there will be more fallout from this decision, more reports, more updates, all that. We'll go over all of it. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. As always, oh, man, I'm just totally shocked by this. But anyway, as I always tell you, stay safe out there. This was the Locked On Titans podcast.